Good day, everyone. So today we will discuss about the personality inventories, and I will be discussing this together with Miss Normina Mola. So let's proceed to our topic outline. First, we have the definition of personality inventories. Second, examples of personality inventories. And lastly, benefits and limitations of personality inventories. For our intended learning outcomes, at the end of this discussion, we will be able to define personality inventories and identify the limitations as well as the benefits of personality inventories. So, what is personality inventories? Personality inventories is the process of asking clients to complete a self-report questionnaire containing statements that assesses habitual tendencies, including different problems and aspects of personality. Personality inventories are also referred to as the self-report inventories. It is designed to identify personality traits in normal population. In this test, clients were required to indicate whether each statement applies to them, or is it true or false. So, personality test or personality inventory is consisted of series of statements covering various characteristics and behavioral patterns that can be applicable to our participants. And this test can indicate to a clinician what problems and disorders might be mostly likely present for a given person. It undergoes a process called standardization, where these tests are typically administered to many people when developed to analyze how certain kinds of people tend to respond to established statistical norms. In fact, there are several types of personality inventories that are widely used, and one of this is the MMPI-2, which will be discussed later on by Ms. Mola. So, some of the personality inventories are designed to assess personality traits in a normal setting, while others focus more specifically on psychological problems and or abnormalities. So, just like what we have said earlier, personality inventories are designed to either identify psychological problems or to test the personality of an individual.
So, moving on to the examples of personality inventories, we have here first the NEO-PIR, which stands for Neo-Personality Inventory Revised. It is a concise measure of the 5-factor model, or the 5 major domains of personality. And these domains are neuroticism, extroversion or extraversion, openness, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. It also measures the 6 traits or facets that define each domain. Furthermore, it provides a systematic assessment of emotional, interpersonal, experimental, attitudinal, and motivational styles. Lastly, the NEO-PIR also facilitates a comprehensive and detailed assessment of normal personality of adults. So another example is the MMPI, which stands for Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, the most extensively used, the most widely used personality inventory. The original version, the MMPI, was developed by Stark R. Hathaway and J. C. McKinley in the early 1940s at the University of Minnesota. Hence the name Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. So like the usual, the first version of tests developed has some limitations or drawbacks, and so it was revised in 1989 to improve its validity and acceptability with the name Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory 2nd Edition, or MMPI-2. So the original sample assessed was composed mainly of white people from Minnesota, and so it lacked representation of ethnic minorities, which questions its validity to general population. And then the new version was then standardized using a sample that was much larger and more representative of the 1980 US Census figures. So you might wonder why it is called multiphasic. The reason behind is that it was designed to detect a number of psychological problems. Responses on the MMPI-2 are sorted into two scales. The first one is the validity scales, which assess the validity of individuals' responses, whether they represent an accurate self-report or the responses were deliberately faked. This is to ensure that the responses of the clients are not exaggerated or makes them appear more healthy or otherwise. The second one is the clinical scales, which assess symptoms of various disorders and problems. So, with the MMPI-2, the most widely used personality inventory, what are the benefits or the advantages of it compared to interviews and observational procedures? So, some benefits of the MMPI-2 is that first, it provides information about the person's test-taking attitude. If the clients are careless, defensive, or exaggerating their problems, because some individuals have this habit of exaggerating their problems or whatnot. Second, the MMPI-2 covers a wide range of problems in a direct and efficient manner, wherein in an interview format, it would take the clinician several hours to go over those topics. Third, since it is scored objectively, the test description of the person's adjustments is not influenced by the clinician's subjective impression of the client. And lastly, it can be interpreted in an actuarial fashion.
Since Ms. Mola have discussed the benefits of MMPI, we will now proceed to the limitations of MMPI. So despite that this test is widely used, there are still identified limitations. First, we have that the utility traditional clinical scales has been questioned, as they can discriminate between different types of mental disorders. And to address these problems, restructured clinical scales have been developed. However, still, the new scales remain controversial according to Nichols of 2006. Second limitation of MMPI is that it depends on the person's ability to read and respond to written statements. Some people find it difficult to answer the lengthy number of questions, and many of them are severely insane, intellectually challenged, or uneducated. So, taking personality tests or these personality inventories is like taking an exam, where if you are not capable mentally, you do not have that great comprehension, you will be having difficulties in answering the questions. Third, we have that specific data are not always available for a particular profile. The test results of many patients do not satisfy the requirements for a certain code type that is associated with a wealth of data. As a result, actuarial interpretation of these profiles is not feasible. And lastly, some studies have found that profile types are not stable over time. It is not clear whether this instability should be interpreted as a lack of reliability or a sensitivity to change in the person's level of adjustment. So that's the end of our topic. Thank you so much for listening.